Welcome to one of our Career Fest career panels. This panel will focus on technology and computer science. We have some amazing panelists today that are working in industry. So just a few housekeeping items. You all should have signed in on the way in, so hopefully you did that. If you were in one of Professor Gaffey's classes, we have his attendance roster, so you could just, we'll check you off, no problem. If you're here for another class, especially if you were getting extra credit for another class, you do need to make sure that you physically sign in because we will send those sign-in sheets to your faculty. So they need to know who you are, that you were here, and then also you need to make sure that you provide us with their last name so we know which faculty to send it to. Sound good? Cool. So the sign-in sheets will be out there at the end too, so if you forgot to do it on the way in, no worries, you can do it, hit it up on the way out. A couple other things, you should have also grabbed a survey. So this is just for our department with work-based learning to be able to help improve our events. So at the end, I'll be collecting those. If you can just provide your feedback on your experience in the career panel, also any ideas or suggestions for future events on how we can improve, we would always appreciate that, especially if you have any suggestions on other industries or professions that you'd like to see. As far as career panels, we are always open to that, especially from students. These are for you to be able to explore and be exposed to different options that you can pursue once you leave and you're done with your education. So we want to be able to provide that for you as easy as possible. That's why we bring professionals onto campus as often as we do. Questions? Cool. Okay, so I have a few prepared questions for our panelists, and then this panel, again, is for you, so we will open it up to the audience, so feel free to ask as many questions as you like within our allotted time frame until 7:30. I do have some giveaways and swag for you, so hopefully that'll incentivize you to answer or ask some questions. We will do this on the honor system, so if you ask a question, just come up afterwards and I'll give you some swag. Sound good? All right. So we'll go ahead and get started. We can have our panelists introduce themselves. So if you can share a little bit about who you are, your name, your company, your current role, and your education background. Whoever wants to start, go for it.
Yeah, so I work at Telium, and currently I'm a DevOps engineer. So my background is I got a degree in information systems from the University of South Alabama in Mobile, Alabama. That's where I'm from. And then from there, I ended up going to Nashville. I got a job at Dell. Then I started working at Intel in San Antonio, and then Intel transferred me out here. And I started working at Telium like a year and a half ago. And what I focus mostly on now is back-end infrastructure and automation.
Hello, my name is Nandor. Probably the only one up here who has a name that can be expressed in purely logic gates. This guy.
I got it.
You can explain how.
I'm a software manager at Amazon. We sell things online. My education background, I have a computer science degree from the University of California at Santa Cruz. I started my career making UAVs and radars at General Atomics. After that, I worked in video games. Worked in mostly Sony PC-based games, making MMOs for about 13 years. Worked on things like EverQuest, EverQuest 2, DCOO, H1Z1, a handful of other games, none of which you've probably heard of. After that, I switched over to Amazon, and I've been working on Amazon products related to 2-hour delivery, Prime Now, and Amazon Fresh Grocery Delivery, mainly in a manager capacity with teams that relate to data modeling, notifications, and automated refunds and things like this. My interests lie in solving puzzles, engineering, and really just interesting problems and problem solving.
Hi, I'm Girish, a software engineer working at Qualcomm. I've done my master's in computer science from San Diego State University, and I mostly do embedded software development for mobile devices.
Okay. Hey everybody, how you doing? Good. Woo! Why is everybody so quiet tonight? Is it the rain? Is it the weather? Is it the class? Is it I don't know. Yeah, all the above, right? Hey everybody, my name is Jason Harps. I am a software integration engineer at Northrop Grumman. I'm over out in Rancho Bernardo. Show of hands. Anybody know where that's at? Yeah. Rancho Bernardo? Okay, a couple. All right, cool. It's not that far, maybe. Let's think. So what do I do there? I can't really talk about it too much because it's top secret. So I shouldn't have said that on camera, but oh well, it is what it is. Let's think. So a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Riverside. I love techie stuff. I love computers. I got my undergrad at San Diego State University in computer science. And then not too recently, I got my master's degree at National University in Management Information Systems. And recently, I just got my master's degree from University of Southern California in Entrepreneurship and Innovation. I can talk about that later, how I got that, but that's about it.
Cool. So often we work with students and they are interested in a certain major or an industry, but actually knowing what that job does doesn't always translate super well, especially in the classroom. So can you share a little bit about what your day-to-day looks like as far as your specific role?
Yeah, I guess we can keep on going.
Don't have to go in a line again.
No, it's cool. So my day-to-day, it varies. And a lot of people don't know this about engineering. Sometimes you code a lot and sometimes you aren't coding at all, you're just in meetings. And so there's some days where I may wake up in the morning and I got 3 to 4 meetings back to back to back, and those meetings are discussing things that we plan on doing for a new feature maybe the next day or the next week. So we're just coming up with architecture diagrams, we're making time frames for when we want stuff to be done, and then from there I may jump into some issue that's happening in production where they're like, hey, this is messing up, and everybody's kind of heads in trying to figure out what the issue is and debugging it and finding the root cause. And then from there I probably pull one of my tickets that I'm working on because we work in Scrum environments, so I look at one of my tickets, and my ticket will say, oh, this person is creating a new feature, we need this architecture built out because we're all AWS. So then I'm writing Terraform code, building out infrastructure, and trying to look at my plans and deploy to the development environment. And then on top of that, I also have things where I'm trying to make our process better. So I'm looking at things that may be issues for us, bottlenecks for us, and in my spare time, I'm trying to create some type of script to help everybody's job easier, you know. So that's kind of like my day-to-day, and sometimes it's like I have a whole lot to do, and then there are times where I don't have so much to do, and then I'm just learning. You know, sometimes you have to research, you know, you got to stay ahead of the curve, and you got to kind of give yourself like, you got to teach yourself things so that you can be able to implement stuff in a better way, you know, going forward. So that's my day-to-day.
Joshua, I have a question.
Yeah.
What is Telium?
Oh,
and sorry if I don't even know that. I'm
no,
so
it's
not
cool.
in
I
this
missed that
world.
part. I noticed I missed it too, and I said I can't say nothing now. So Telium is a company in Torrey Pines. They actually started in San Diego, and we have around like maybe 300, 400 employees worldwide. Started maybe like 10 years ago, and what we do is we help companies to track their digital footprint. And most marketing teams use us. So what you'll do is you'll have this whole marketing campaign. You may have an advertisement on Facebook, you may have one on Instagram, you may have one on footlocker.com, and all of this stuff. And say your company is Gap. So what we'll end up doing is when someone goes to Gap, we're able to tell the whole story of how they got there. So that's kind of what we do. We do a whole bunch of analytics. A lot of it is real time. We like an AWS shop, and whenever yeah, you got it. So we're in shops, so we're using what that means is our cloud, we're on the cloud for our backend infrastructure, so it's all in the cloud, and what we do mostly translates into other products. So gathering all that data translates into other products that someone may use. Maybe you want to know what's the probability that somebody coming to my site is going to buy something. We create a product for that. You may just want to know, like, tell me what's happening. It's a product for that. You know, and so forth and so on.
So what kind of coding do you do?
So I do mostly infrastructure since I'm a DevOps engineer. So I'm doing Terraform, infrastructure as a code. There's other different types of infrastructure as a code, but I use Terraform. mostly. You can also do some of this stuff in Chef. We use Chef as well, mostly for like file system management and configuration. And I do a lot of Python or shell scripting. I do those things because, let's say you just deployed this environment, and then once you get on that environment, you want some things to happen. So you say, like, best way for you to do is probably write a script. Hey, script, go and get this file from storage bucket and pull that onto this system and then execute X, Y, Z. So stuff like that.
So how many of those types of code are you, were proficient in one? Are they similar enough that you can,
Translate them.
yeah, translate them?
So the basics of coding isn't in all of them. Like there's inheritance, calculation, all that kind of stuff. That's in the basics of all of them. But how they actually execute it in each one is very different. When I from infrastructure as a code to Python. So like Terraform is pretty different from Python and Shell. You know, but ideally, normally like Python, maybe Shell, Java, and stuff like that, they have a lot more similarities. But Terraform is not like them too much because it's communicating with the AWS API and creating resources and stuff like that. But if you're trying to understand whether you understand one, you can understand the other one, the answer is yes.
I think to kind of add to that, for example, and this is going to be different for probably Northrop and for Qualcomm, but at least at Amazon, we don't do our interviews in any specific language. We don't look for domain knowledge in a language in our interviews. You can come, I've done over 180 interviews at Amazon since I've been there. You can come in and interview in JavaScript, you can interview in Python, you can interview in C++, you can interview in C#, you can interview in any language you want. The fundamentals we're looking for are in the algorithms that you use to solve the problems and not in the language or the domain knowledge of the language. We assume that if you can solve the algorithmic problems, the language is not going to be a barrier to solving the problem. You can learn the language.
Yeah, good point. And to piggyback off what he was saying, when someone comes to you with a coding issue, they normally, the language is like the last thing they talk about. Like normally they're going to say like what needs to be done. You'll talk about what needs to be done, and then you say what's the best language for this. That's kind of how it goes. But funny scenario. So you can use any language, but also you shouldn't. So I had a friend, and I had a front-end opportunity that came up with my company. I was like, it's like, cool, man. I said, you know, I put your name out there, so they're gonna call you. So they call him, and the first thing they ask him, they say, this is for a front-end opportunity. They say, what's your best coding language? And he says, Python. And then the front-end manager told me, at that moment, I kind of was like, I can't help you. I don't even know Python. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because mostly, you know, JavaScript using something like that, you know, for front end. So it's like, even though you can, you also got to kind of be, you know, thinking about the task.
Yeah, since we're on the topic, I guess I'm curious. You guys you're mentioning as far as Nandor, you're mentioning that you're doing a lot of interviews, and it doesn't really matter. What matters is your algorithm, your approach to how you solve it. You know, basically utilizing the tools. For a candidate that would be interviewing or searching for a position, what type of projects would you like to see in their background to kind of demonstrate that? Or perhaps maybe something that you've seen that people presented that you thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, so our interview process is very specific and very different. We'll ask very specific questions around our leadership principles, and I actually do workshops at our Amazon facility here in La Jolla related to our interview process, and we'll do like mock interviews and stuff. So we have a couple different groups that get involved with that. You can email me, literally Nandor at Amazon. I'm the only one. And I can get you in touch with the right groups, and we can talk about it in more detail. But the leadership principles that we have, we'll ask questions related to those leadership principles, and we'll look for your demonstration of those principles in those projects that you've done, right? So how have you shown bias for action? How have you shown your ability to learn and be curious? How have you shown your ability to earn trust with your teammates? As far as the tech goes, we're going to expect you to be able to solve some algorithmic questions around problem solving for code, you know, be able to explain the space and time complexity of your algorithm and this kind of stuff. Not necessarily, we're not going to like have you bring like a coding sample and then break it down for us, right? We're going to expect you to solve that in real time, do some system design. Depending on the, for college guys, we won't do system design. If you're coming in from industry, we'll do some system design. For college guys, we'll probably do like object-oriented design, maybe some database type stuff.
You said how you were able to, I guess, collaborate on those projects. So do you expect individual projects and teamwork, like team projects?
Yeah, so if you're coming like straight out of college, you're going to be put through a different pipeline than if you're coming through, you'll be put through university recruiting. So the interview process is going to be a little bit different. I'm tangentially involved with that, but it's 90% through Seattle. And it's usually, you know, like one manager interviewing you for like an hour, and then you do like an online assessment thing for coding. So it's a little bit different process than if you come in and you've had like 6 or more months of 6 or more months of industry experience, and then you come through like a regular pipeline where you do like 5 individual interviews with 5 actual people here on site in San Diego, for example. And that's more where my experience is. And then there you would be more, you would dig into more specifics, and there we would have expected you to have industry experience, and then that, you know, obviously if you have industry experience, it would have been kind of collaborative by definition. Right? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Great questions. So did the rest of you want to share a little bit about your day-to-day and what that looks like? Going back to that question.
Sure. So for me, day to day, it depends on what stage of the development cycle I'm in. It can range from gathering requirements and working with systems teams, doing my design and development and testing and verification. Or it depends on the criticality of the day. Like let's say some customer issue comes in, and that's the highest priority. Always customer issue is the highest priority. So I'll be debugging things, debugging crashes, or making fixes for the customers, working with them, having informal meetings with them. So it really depends on what the day brings.
And what kind of coding do you use mostly?
Mostly I do C++.
Yeah. So since I work at Northrop, day to day, what do I do every day? I talk to a lot of people from all different types of backgrounds. I mean, they could be as young as 20 to, you know, as seasoned as beyond 20, right? And the thing about it is there's a lot of meetings. I think the gentleman said it earlier. There's definitely a lot of meetings, which goes in hand with, okay, how do I get my work done if I'm in meetings all day? You know what I'm saying? So then now all of a sudden you got to be efficient with your time. You know, how are you going to be efficient with your time is by talking to the people in order to get the work done. So for me, it's like every day it's a new challenge. Like, okay, where am I going to find the best time to figure this problem out? Who should I need to talk to? And how's the best way to communicate it in order to get it done today? But always remember, like, you don't get everything done in one day. You know what I mean? Sometimes people get caught up in that, even myself, you know, stating about like, 12 to 15 hours. But then it's like, hold up, I have a whole other day to get to it, you know? So that's kind of like more like my day-to-day in Northrop. But it's really cool because I talk to a lot of people that are like very intelligent, and it's a nice place to be in. So, yeah.
Kind of going off of that and time management, and I guess from all of you guys, I want your response just to see if it's the same. But how is each project, or the timeline of each project, is it different? Or do they usually take the same amount of time, like a couple of weeks or like a month, to work on, like a team thing, or whether it be like a certain software upgrade or something like that? Like, how is the timeline similar? Is it all over the place? Do you have to structure it based on the actual project?
Yeah, so we do this thing called Agile. I don't know if you guys are in Agile. So literally, like, it's called sprints, right? So every month you have to deliver something to the customer, right? Or at least a little demo at the end of the sprint, right, per se. So it's literally like this, like the first week is all planning. Like everybody's in the room, okay, what is everybody gonna do? All right, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. All right, cool. Then you just get to the work, right? The next thing you know, the second week, you're finding a lot of problems, so then all of a sudden it's taking a lot longer to get the work done. Then the third week, oh man, everybody's in rush mode, everybody's working like crazy hours, you know what I mean? Then the last week is just fine tuning. Whatever's done, pencils down, that it is what it is, and then you just present. So every month, I would say is like that intense or not as intense. It just depends on what is going to be delivered at the end of the month. So that's how it's like in the month.
So you kind of plan month by month.
Yeah.
It varies. It can range from like a couple of days to a couple of weeks to a couple of months. So it just depends on what kind of project it is, what kind of work it is. It can be a small feature that can be finished in a week, or it can be a feature that can take a couple of months and work across the system, working with different teams and getting things done.
Yeah, I think our workflow is probably a little bit different. We do use agile methodologies, though probably a little bit less prescriptively. We don't necessarily use Scrum, though. Like I said before, I have a couple different tech teams. My only prescription to them is that I must be able to provide them with a prioritized list of tasks. They must be able to roughly tell me when those tasks are going to come out of the hopper, but what black box they use to make that determination is more or less irrelevant to me as a manager. It could be Scrum, it could be Kanban. They can own that process as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't have to be a prescriptive process. And so 2 of my teams use Kanban, 1 of my teams use Scrum, and both of the Kanban processes are slightly different in their exact implementations. And the way that they iterate on those processes, I feel it's actually pretty healthy for the teams to own those processes so that they can iterate on them freely, mainly because I feel that the teams should feel that they own the processes so that they feel that they can change them, because the process should be a definition of how you do your work, because if it isn't, then it probably isn't effective. And if it's not effective, then you're not doing your work effectively, right? So the teams, some teams have 3-week time slices. You can call them sprints or whatever you like. Some teams have 4, some 2. Whatever works for them is fine for me. Like I said, the important part for me, my input is a prioritized list of tasks that I can reshuffle if I need to. I try not to, but sometimes the reality is the reality. And then I have to be able to generate a rough timeline of generally when these things are going to come out of the pipeline, right? So that's kind of my approach to software development.
Okay. Can you get a question?
Did you want to address that question first?
Yeah. So from my perspective, we work on 2-week sprints, and we have. It's not. I mean, it is as simple as this is the work you have for this sprint, but how the work comes down to us kind of helps us manage what we do during that time period, so that we don't get to the point where we got so much stuff going on we can't get stuff done. So we have Scrum Masters, and then we also have product teams, and we have project managers as well. So the product team is kind of like the person that's come up with the vision for this is the theme that end result is going to create at the end of the day. And then they sit down with the Scrum Masters and the team, and they come up with a timeline. And then from there, you kind of get your 2-week thing deliverable. And at the end of that deliverable, of course, you want to be able to deliver a product. But at the end of each sprint, you also want to deliver something as well. So that's kind of how it goes. But I have been on teams where we had no Scrum, because that was the best way for us to work. We kind of were ad hoc and stuff, and it was like, yeah, we could do Scrum, but it wouldn't do the best good benefit. So go back to what Andrew was saying. It sometimes depends on the team.
Sorry, what word are you using over there? Scrum?
Scrum.
What is
Yeah.
that?
You can just look up Agile Scrum methodology.
Okay.
He's not calling you a Scrum.
Thank you.
No problem.
You had a question.
My question is something you mentioned earlier was when things are kind of slower, you're focusing on learning. There's a lot of professions that have like continuous education. Starting with Jayden here, how do you, I guess, stay on top, like ahead of the curve, and like what resources? I know Udemy and like other things like that to keep learning software engineering, but what's your personal?
Yeah, man. I mean, just definitely reading up on stuff. You know, like I mean, there's so much free information online, right? I mean, you got Udemy, you got what code.org or Coursera. I mean, there's so much information out there, and they kind of explain like, hey, this is the next big thing that's coming. You know, maybe you should learn this, or maybe you should improve upon the skill set that you're trying to develop right now, right? So that's what I do. I literally just read like a lot of like Wired or or CNBC, you know what I mean? See what's going on with the businesses, you know, what are people investing in, you know what I mean? And then next thing you know, it's like, okay, this is the language I need to start learning right now because this is what's in demand right now. You know, it may be different. I mean, for instance, right, when I came out of school, like Java was the big thing, you know, but now all of a sudden Python is a big thing, you know, so it's like, what's next? But that's the best way to look at it is like, all right, as long as I know I'm doing my job and doing research, then it'll just come to me.
Well, for the bigger companies, I'm assuming they have their own internal education opportunities for you, like classes to go to or something like that. I mean, do you take advantage of your company's education?
Yes.
So,
Good.
I was gonna say, like, learning new stuff is a tricky thing because you do it every day. So you're doing it every day. And yeah, I have times where I sit back and I read up on stuff, but I don't never exactly have time to dig deep into stuff because I got something else that I'm probably doing that I'm entrenched in that. But the best way to think about it for me, like from my perspective, how I try to stay up on stuff, you think about like something you were real good at as a kid, maybe a sport. Like for me, it was basketball. That's what I love. But whenever you got something you're real good at, you talk about it, you watch it on TV, you're doing it, you know, and so it's the same way. Like you're at work, you work every day, you want to read up on it and stay up to date, you want to talk about it with your colleagues and your friends, and then through all that kind of stuff, that's how you know the best basketball player, you know the rookie that's coming up, you know the one that's in college, you know, it's kind of like a community type thing. That's the best way to think about it.
I have a question about certifications from Cisco, AWS, and CompTIA. If you don't have a degree, how useful are these? AWS is big now in cloud. You have Cisco doing on DevOps. What do you guys see in the industry, or what do you think about these certifications?
For us, I do a lot of resume reviews. I hire mostly software engineers, and I don't know that there's a certification that necessarily takes the place of a software engineering degree per se. That said, I've hired people without degrees for software engineering positions. They've just been doing software engineering, or they're really into it and they do it on the side. You come in, you pass the interview. I don't care that you don't have a degree. But I don't know that I've ever looked at a resume and said, oh, they have this degree, and that bypasses having a 4-year degree. Yeah, I don't know that that's ever been the case.
Same with like boot camps?
Yeah, the boot camps, we've interviewed, I've personally interviewed a lot of people that have gone through the coding boot camps. They've had a lot of problems passing our interviews because the interviews focus on CS fundamentals and the boot camps focus on practical programming, right? So, how can I describe this? I don't know if you're into, I'm super into like chef shows. I'm terrible at cooking, but I'm super into like watching like Alton Brown, right? Like he like if you watch someone like cooking like scrambled eggs, but like Alton Brown can break down like what's going on at a molecular level, right? Like CS 101 fundamentals is breaking it down on a molecular level, whereas someone can make you some scrambled eggs that are really good, right? Like that's the difference in the two skill sets, and I think we're kind of looking, can you break it down on the molecular level versus can you just do this thing, right? And I think that's the coding boot camp kind of teaches you how to do the thing versus do you really understand kind of what's going on at a low level, right?
I know we're jumping ahead here, but I assume you all have internships. What's the process of becoming an intern, and what does an intern do?
Well,
First question, did you have internships though
yeah.
in your education experience?
Funny thing is, my internship, they literally used to forget about me. I used to just come to work, and then like she'd be like, "God, I gotta find something for you to do." And
That is not what it's like now.
yeah, it's not like that now. But for me, what ended up happening was I had an internship, and I was, I got the internship honestly because of networking. So I was networking with people, and one of my friends, one of the girls I went to school with, her mom had me on the board for the water company in Alabama where I'm from, and she was like, "Well, I can appoint one person to the internship program," and she was like, "I suggest you." So I ended up working IT at the, there. But what ended up happening that helped me a lot was I ended up getting a full-time position working like in another company. So instead of like while I was in school, instead of like saying I need to get an internship, I was like, I can just start working. so I just started looking up job descriptions, and whenever I saw one that I was like, I can do that, I just applied, and then I ended up interviewing, I got one. And so I just told them like, hey, I'm still in school, I need to go to class XYZ, and they just, they let me do that. But as far as what interns do, so interns normally are hired because we low-key have something specific in mind that we don't have the time to do what we want them to do. That's kind of what we do on our end. So like maybe we got some technical debt, meaning we did something in a way that is not the best way to do it anymore. And we really need to change this and update this. So once the intern comes in, we like, hey, you're gonna be here for 2 months. This is what we would like you to do. So that's kind of some of the stuff we do from our end, but that can vary, so you're gonna have a different answer, everybody's different.
How dare you? Yeah. So as you can imagine, being a small startup like Amazon, we have no process around internship. We have a giant process around internships. There's an entire interview process. We have interns usually twice a year. We put in a requisition, and then interns literally just show up. It's crazy. I've never worked at a company like that. It's like at the beginning of the year, I need 4 people, and then like 4 people show up randomly. And so yeah, it's you must get college credit for it. You have a intern project that as a manager, I have to scope out an entire project for you. It lasts I think 4 to 6 weeks. It's got like a beginning, middle, and end. We have weekly one-on-one meetings where we go over the project that you're doing. You have a full-time mentor that's with you every step of the way. It's a full deliverable. You do a I can't word right now. This is fantastic. A presentation. Thank you. A presentation at the end to our director that shows off what you've done, and then we have like a little competition, and they vote on which intern project was the coolest. You get a little award or whatever, and then you go back to your college and do some kind of other presentation. So we've had a lot of interns throughout the years, and also kind of a cool side perk is at the end of your internship, your manager gets together with a bar raiser. A bar raiser is an Amazon concept of someone that is part of a standard interview loop that is outside of the organization that is doing the interview. And this is on every single interview loop that ensures that the hire is the right hiring decision for Amazon. This prevents a hiring manager from making a, I just need a person to fill a seat decision. So basically they're there as a check and a balance against a hiring manager just making a, I just need someone that can breathe to fill this position. I don't care if they're really not that great, right? So this person is there to make sure that every single hire that we make is a good decision, good hiring decision for Amazon as a whole, right? That's why they're in a different organization by default. So they're in a different organization. They have no skin in the game for for the hire that they were making the choice on, and they have full veto power over the hiring decision. So at the end of your internship, your manager gets together with the bar raiser, and then your manager and the bar raiser make a decision whether or not you get a return offer that literally says, on your graduation date, here is your Amazon offer. You can come start working for us as a full-time engineer, and that is an open offer to come work at any Amazon facility anywhere in the world. You'll get a relocation package, and you'll get your starting salary and all that stuff. So it's a really great internship opportunity. Yeah. My last 3 interns have gotten hired that way. and they stayed here in San Diego actually.
Yeah, we hired our intern too, and we're probably gonna hire the one we have now. Normally, if you're good intern, they're gonna try.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I think she wanted to make one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Your
so
guys' experience.
same goes for Qualcomm. So interns are really important to us because the time that you invest, like the interns spend there, you get to choose a candidate who is actually going to be having worked in the environment for a couple of months, let's say doing their summer internship, fall internship, or something like that. You have invested that much time and you get that the candidate is good and it's a easy hire. Other than like going there and looking for an engineer who or a software developer who's just out of the school, and you get to evaluate them through an interview process, that's different. But when you work with somebody for a couple of months, you know what they're capable of. And so that's really useful and helpful for the company as well as the candidate. So we like give a lot of, we respect our interns.
Yeah, so I got my internship at Spade War. So I did. Anybody heard of Spade War?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. They're cool, I guess. Yeah. So and how I got that internship, right? It goes back to networking. I mean, my GPA was trash, y'all. Like I had below a 2.6 GPA. All right.
Wow.
So I knew my GPA was gonna get me into the job, right? I was like, man, how am I gonna do it? So one day there was so I'm part of this organization called NSBE. National Society of Black Engineers, okay? And being a part of a student organization, right, you just never know who you might meet. So one of the person that came in, he was a manager at Spade War. He's like, hey, I'm looking for computer science, computer engineering degrees in here. I was like, hey, sign me up, you know what I mean? Like, I don't really have much experience right now. I'm over here, working at San Diego State, at the Aztec market, the little convenience store. I was cutting pizzas. I don't know if you guys ever heard of CC's Pizza.
Yeah.
It's not here anymore. It's not out here anymore, but yeah, CC's Pizza. So I was hustling, But anyway, so I was able to just talk to him and tell my situation, like, hey, like I would definitely, do whatever it takes in order to get this position. And to be honest, he didn't really care what was going on with me. He's like, hey, I'm gonna get you, right on in, and it was nice. And with that being said, I was able to get a secret clearance, right? So he was like, this is gonna be like a secret, like classified project. So I'm gonna put you in for that. And it only took about like a year. I mean, not a year. That's way too long. It only took about a month for me to get cleared with my background check, and the next thing you know, I was starting. But he was able to get me because at San Diego State, just like a career thing, right? They have positions that's out there. They literally look for students to fulfill those positions, right? So it's like, okay, who do you know? Who's the person that actually has the same power to make that decision for you? So then once I got in there for about a year and a half, I found out that, man, they weren't gonna have a full-time position for me because of whatever budgeting that they had going on. So I was like, dang, how am I gonna get it now? So I went to the national convention for NSBE in Indianapolis that year, and I got interviewed with Northrop Grumman. And at the time, they didn't tell me it was gonna be like a big project that I was gonna be a part of. But once I got through the interview process, they told me, I was like, okay, I'm really happy I'm in it. And then so being hired on through them, that was pretty cool because now I got to see actual interns from like Northrop Grumman, which is really interesting. Like everybody's been saying, like they want to see like how you, that's like a practice squad. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you're out there practicing, or are you part of the team yet? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, for that summer, just like 3 months for the interns to prove themselves. At the end of that summer, they go ahead and present, whatever they've been working on. And it's like, okay, I really do like them. Let's hire them again for next year. And then with Northrop, if you can come back twice, it's like automatic. They're gonna give you an offer that third time, depending on wherever you're at in the in your student career path or whatever the case may be. So that was kind of my journey with internship.
Yeah, you brought up NSBE, and that's a good point. A lot of these organizations like NSBE, I'm involved with NSBE as well, and Women Who Code, Girls in Tech, there's the Colonel Panic Linux user group. There's a handful that actually meet in our Amazon office here in La Jolla. These organizations are great to get involved in. There's people from a lot of different companies across San Diego, Intuit, Amazon, all the big, Qualcomm, all the big companies here. They get involved with these organizations for various reasons or have been involved with them for a long time. that are looking for people, and that's the first place they go, right? So getting involved with these organizations is great.
And I just want to touch on one thing. With work-based learning, our role on campus is to help students connect what you're learning in the classroom and apply that to the real world. So that's why we bring on industry professionals onto campus. We can help you do informational interviews, job shadowing. Also, if you're looking to get that hands-on experience, like they all talk about internships, we have an internship coordinator, a part of our team. So he can help make sure that your resume is on par, you're ready to go as far as interviewing, help you even search for positions. Today we had an internship fair on campus, tomorrow we have a job fair. So these resources and services are out there and available for you. So to make sure as a student that you're taking advantage of them. And I just wanted to touch on one thing that Nander had mentioned as far as getting work experience credit, so college credit for an internship. You'll see that fairly often in industry that they do require that. So if you're looking to apply for an internship, it may say that. Mesa has a work experience course here, which is a college class that you can take and receive credit for hands-on experience in the field. So that is if you have a job, internship, a volunteer position, it can be paid or unpaid. I am the work experience coordinator, so if you have questions about that, please come and talk to me afterwards. But it is a really great opportunity for you to get that hands-on exposure. And another really cool thing about internships is it's an opportunity for you to kind of test out the waters too, like because you have to think about it like they're looking to see if they like you to hire you, but you want to make sure that it's a company or a position or a job that you're interested in as well. Big part of the career development process is like, all right, cool, I really like this. That's not for me, right? Figuring out what you do and do not like, and so this is a really perfect time for you to be able to do that.
And just to piggyback off what she
I
said.
just got my IT manager degree here, and I took classes like Active Directory and security, networking, server management, and Linux. I'm kind of wondering, you guys are about coding. I'm kind of wondering, like, do you have any like internships based on that, or do I need to like run home and learn Python?
Well,
Learn Linux.
well, the field is real broad. It's a very broad field. You know, like everybody, they don't have to specialize. They don't have to be a coder. We have like security teams. We have system administrators. So it's pretty broad. I would just say you want to make sure you're learning what you want to learn, because once you start learning, you tend to keep going that way. And you know, and so if you want to code, then code. Like, you know, like I personally, I don't necessarily like just coding Java. You know, I like infrastructure. You know, I code infrastructure. So it all depends on what you want to learn.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have kind of two different ways you can go with that, right? Like, so learning Active Directory, so you're essentially an IT infrastructure guy, right? So you can kind of go IT infrastructure, which is small offices that aren't moving to the cloud, right? Have in-house servers and want to have someone in-house that manage all those things for them. Or you can kind of take your understanding of that technology and then shift yourself into kind of like a cloud-based career, going, okay, I kind of understand how this technology works. Maybe I want to start learning AWS stuff. Like, it's going to be a different career. Now you're talking, serverless architecture, shifting stuff into the cloud and doing similar stuff but different, and it's going to be a very different career, but still similar. And you just have to figure out which you're going to find more interesting and more compelling. I think one is going to be more in-house, smaller kind of shops, and the other one is going to be kind of larger, more scaled shops that are moving towards cloud-based and more kind of scalable or forward-looking stuff. That's how I see it going, but I've certainly been wrong before.
Right. So if you want to get like an internship involving coding, like what level of skill would you kind of have to be at? Because I've seen some that are looking for like an intern that knows like machine learning or something like that. You know, it's like a professional intern or something.
Underpaid professional.
Yeah, I mean, well, I would call our interns underpaid. I would, at least for us, I would assume as an intern, you would probably have 3 years of CS classes under your belt. You're probably somewhere entering your 4th year. Maybe maybe you're going to be a super senior. Maybe you got a year and a half left, kind of thing. Maybe 2 years on the high end. but you've got most of your lower division classes done. You understand coding. Maybe you're not. Your data structures isn't great, but it's.
If students are not quite there yet, as far as like,
they're out.
What would you recommend that they could do to kind of help develop their skills to be kind of ready?
Honestly, at this point, they don't let me code anymore. So I recommend you do the same thing I do, which is pick up a bunch of weekend projects and start doing stuff on your free time. I am constantly learning stuff on my free time, picking up projects. I literally spent all of last weekend building a facial recognition software for my home security camera system. Integrating it. Yes, it's fantastic. My wife is super annoyed. But it's great. If anyone wants to geek out about it after the panel, I'm happy to talk about it. Literally. Yeah, so literally just pick projects and do them. I'm constantly building stuff. Like I said, I love solving puzzles. I love building things.
I just want to add something. So basically, if you're looking for something in software development, I would say do your basics. That being said, as algorithms, data structures, and operating systems knowledge. So if you have solid foundation in algorithms and data structures, and you have a good knowledge of operating systems, then like 50 to 60% of your battle is done. Rest is like how you prove yourself. So if you get your basics right, I think you should be okay.
Can you guys talk a little bit about, I know a lot of these companies hire contractors, right? Because I feel like everyone's focused on internship and everyone's dying to get one. But like you also hire, essentially they're like seasonal workers, they're not employees. Can you guys talk about like the path of converting? Is there a lot of conversion from contractor to full-time employees?
Some companies do, we don't.
Oh, you guys don't hire contractors at all?
We don't.
I don't know.
Hey, I mean, honestly, like I've been seeing a lot of people be contracted out and stuff. Like it could be something that's like fixing the roof. You know what I mean? Like obviously you can contract for 6 or 12 months, but when it comes to like technical stuff, like there's a consultant, right? Like this guy, he knows everything. I'm like, man, he comes in whenever he wants and leaves whenever he wants. Like that sounds like a nice gig. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he had to, go through the ropes. You know what I mean? He had to go through the hard work and get to that position. So I want to say it's like a gift and a curse. It just depends on what you're trying to do with being a contractor, And if they do like you and you do some really great stuff, yeah, I don't see why not, for them to hire you on.
It does happen. It just depends though. We usually have agreement with the contracting company.
Mm-hmm.
So what usually happens is you finish your contract and you are out of the contract for a month or so, and then you are
Right.
back to the full time. But there is no usually like a direct shift from contract to full time.
Yeah, I was just gonna say if it was me and I was considering a contract position, it would only be for like, I wanna do like kind of career change. I wanna get this experience and this is my only way to get it, or if you're a person that's an expert and you just like, I just wanna take contracts, and then after that I wanna chill for a little while. So, I mean, that would be my, the reason I would take them. I mean, I'm not saying they're bad, but, that you don't get a guaranteed job.
So back to the coding in your free time. I had a question which was, how much coding do you guys do in your free time? Are you working on projects constantly just for fun? Like, is that something you've been doing since before you even went to college and got your degrees or started coding as a job?
Yes, I'm a giant nerd.
I've been doing this.
I have. I've always enjoyed it. But that isn't to say that all of the people that I work with have, or that they have to, or they do now. It's certainly not a prerequisite for the job. It's just something that I do.
Yeah.
Some people, they code at work and then they go home and they don't want to work on a computer. I literally have worked with people that are very good programmers that do not own a computer at their house.
Yeah, and that's kind of some people don't like to take the job. I don't code a lot. I read a lot about cloud infrastructure and the best practice for architecture and stuff like that. I don't have to code it out to read it. Sometimes I think about doing it, but then I'm like, nah, I don't feel like doing it right now. But it all goes back to like you said, like whatever your interest is. Like you don't have to code it all day. Like people think that all the time. They ask me, "You code all the time?" I'm like, no. I read a lot. You know what I mean, and I like to learn about it. But I'm not at home coding projects all the time. Yeah.
What do you guys see the future is as far as cloud operations?
AWS. I'm sorry.
So this is going to be more. So I know cloud and DevOps are big things right now, but within 5 years, as far as back of the house, meaning IT stuff, and front of the house, what do you guys think is going to be more important, the best area to get into as far as financial gains? So let's say if you think cloud is going to be big, or what do you guys see in your industry? If you could go over that, each of you, that'd be really great. Thank you.
Real quick, I would say definitely cloud's the future. I mean, just think about it. Like we can download thousands of gigabytes of pictures and videos in thin air. You know what I mean? It's like that was unheard of about 30 years ago. You know what I mean? Yeah. So just think about the next 30 years, what it's going to be like. You know, we're going to have a chip in our neck and we're like, hey, download that. It's like, oh, what? You got a chip? So how I see it is with more power comes like more responsibility, right? So now all of a sudden we're getting to the cyber security field area, right? So how are we going to protect this data? And I feel like that's the ultimate question is like, since we have so much data out here, we have to be able to protect it. And the best way to protect it is knowing how to defend it. And knowing how, hackers, go in or cyber criminals go in and retrieve this kind of data. Because if not, then hey, the company's gonna lose money. You're gonna lose your identity, literally, like digitally, you're gonna lose your identity. And it gets pretty serious, man. And especially with the banks too. Oh, yeah, there goes that, you know what I mean? So that's where I see it going. That's just me.
Cloud and cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And from you, sir?
Cloud is here to stay. Don't have much exposure to it, so I can't really comment on it. But cloud is here to stay.
I think as technology evolves, really what we're doing is we're evolving building blocks for future generations, right? So whereas 10 years ago, if I wanted to stand up a web server in my dorm room, I had to go buy, probably like a Pentium or something, and set up Linux on it, and set up Apache, and set up all this stuff, and I had to have all these prerequisite things. And now I can go spin up an EC2 instance, and I can have a web server running in 30 seconds, right? So what we've done is we've built a building block to make things easier for the next generation. And I think we're going to continue in all facets of engineering to build bigger and bigger building blocks for the next generation. So right now, like crypto and cryptocurrency are in their infancy, and they're very hard to understand, and really nobody understands them. But these things are the concept around crypto is going to get more and more well understood. It's going to turn into this thing where more and more things are going to turn into these ledger-based, distributed systems. More and more things are going to become building blocks, and we're going to build on top of technology to build bigger and bigger things. And this is one of these things that Bezos is investing money in, right? Is that in 50 years from now, he wants to have 2 college students be able to design a rocket ship from their dorm room, right? The building block should be there to be able to do that, whereas right now it's billions of dollars to do that. Well, 50 years ago it was millions of dollars to build a website in your dorm room, right? And now it's tens of dollars. So I think that's the future, is creating more and more complex building blocks, breaking this technology down into more and more accessible pieces.
Yeah, like pretty much that's exactly piggybacking off what he said. All I do is cloud stuff. So like he said, you're gonna go from back in the day where if I wanted to get a website or something like that, or make one, you have to get like a little Raspberry Pi or something like that. And now all you got to do is go to AWS, spin up an EC2 instance. You don't really even have to do it yourself. Actually, AWS got stuff on there that are just like do it for you, you know. And so that's partly some of the stuff the cloud allows you to do. And then when it comes to machine learning and stuff like that, they got stuff for machine learning for you. You don't have to even worry about it. We already got it, you know. And then when it comes to streaming, don't worry about it. We already got it. Text to speech, don't worry about it. We already got it. So all of these are cloud tools. So I think the question that you probably would pose is which cloud technology is going to like be in the future. You know, like you should be knowledgeable about all of them. Probably going to be AWS. But there's also Google Cloud out there. There's also Azure out there, you know. So, so there's a bunch of different ones, you know. And as a developer, what you should think about is when you develop, you're not going to be tasked with just learning a language. You're going to also have to know how to be an engineer that also is leveraging the cloud the right way. Like when they come to you and they say build something, they want you to be able to say, and these are the tools that I use to build that, you know, in the cloud. So that's something that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you need to understand when to use an EC2 instance versus, we were talking about this before the thing got, before the panel started, like when do you use a Lambda, when do you use an EC2 instance, when do you use, you know, what's the right technology? Yeah, what do you use? DynamoDB,
Yeah.
do you use S3, what do you know, what kind of messaging do you use? You know, these are the type of decisions you need to make, right? And it's not trivial. And the, again, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, it almost doesn't matter. It's the concepts that matter, right?
Right.
Like there's different types of databases, right? There's like
Type of shit.
yeah, yeah. So you need to understand the core concepts, and then you can kind of apply those to different technologies because they're all kind of based on the same core concepts.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so you guys, I mean, you're still a small company, but questions still at you. I guess how would you suggest for us to make our resumes and our interviews stand out? I guess more importantly resumes, because especially at such large companies, I'm sure that there's probably an online screening process where you don't even meet some of the people unless it's a networking connection. So are there specific things that you would look for on a resume that may make you stand out? I guess projects would be helpful, showing experience that you've worked with maybe things already. But what would you recommend?
Yeah, my winner is if you went to San Diego State. You know, you're good to me. I'm just kidding. No, I would say, because I used to like at least go to these career fairs, you know, with Northrop Grumman and stuff, and some of the things that the managers wanted to look for, right? Is like, okay, is this candidate, do they know Java? Do they know certain things and stuff? But honestly, I look for the personality. Like, hey, how are you? You know, how can you work with me? You know what I mean? Like, how have you, you know, done this task with somebody? You know, so then even though it's on paper, it's like, but when we explain it and start talking about it, I think that's the distinguishing. It's like, okay, this person looks like they're capable to be able to communicate to me, you know, a technical problem, and not only that, can be able to, you know, be in a calming manner. You know what I mean? Because obviously there's a lot going on in the everyday type of workplace. So then it's like, okay, what was like one of the most challenging things you ever faced when you was doing that project or in class or whatever the experience that you have? You know, don't feel like you're unvaluable because, okay, it wasn't part of that requirement. You know what I mean? Like, there's something that you can bring to the table, and you know, and if they don't see that, then, you know, always know like, hey, that's their loss. So that's how I look at it. But, yeah.
I would say like listing down your coursework, your classes that you have taken, and what kind of projects you have done. That like demonstrates your skill set that you are trying to sell. So that would be important, I would say. Focus on the projects that you want to highlight, that you have a mastery at. You have done decent amount of work in it.
But not like CISC 181 or CISC 190, because companies don't know what that is. So you have to like actually spell out the title of the class. We see that a lot.
So you're mentioning like, you know, having projects on your resume or something. I mean, do you have like I don't know what the resumes look like these days. Are people putting their GitHubs like links in there? Are you guys looking at it digitally, or do you have it printed out by hand?
No.
Click, or was it, you know?
You describe
you
your
say
project.
projects. Well, okay, just to clarify, you say projects, and it's like I developed a web scraper to find a job. You know, I did that, did all this. What do I then? Do I send you a link to that, or other projects that I've done, just like small, short descriptions? I mean, just to kind of pick back up what you're asking, it's like what makes the resume kind of stand out of the thousands that you guys probably have to look at, you know, that just look like.
Yeah, so if they have a project, how do they put it on a piece of paper? That's what it's trying
That too, yeah, that too.
Yeah, so resumes, they get submitted online, right? So providing a link is always useful.
Okay.
Somebody can just go and click on it and
Okay.
take a look at it, what's going on. But describing your project, like what does it do? What kind of technologies does it use? So in your own words, if you describe it, what it is doing and how it is working, that would help.
Anders, do you want to touch on this? Because I know you said you have looked at a lot.
Yeah,
of
my
resumes.
opinion's not going to be popular here.
Okay, sorry, keep it quiet. Okay.
He doesn't look at resumes.
I do look at resumes.
Roll the dice.
No, I don't roll the dice. So here's the problem, right? I think because we don't hire for domain knowledge, most everyone's going to come out, and every college grad is going to have roughly the same level of experience. So for me, what is going to be the determining factor is how you do in the interview process. The resume isn't going to be it. So if you submit a resume, 9 times out of 10, if you get into the hopper, at some point you're going to get an interview, and then you'll do how you do on the interview. If you're past, if you have industry experience, I'm probably going to spend between 30 and 60 seconds doing a resume review on you. And I'm going to look at what jobs you've worked and what positions you held.
That is a long time to review a resume. On average, it's about 6 to 8 seconds for employers to review it. So that's a really long time.
It's a really long time, and the reason that I spend that long is because I only get a fraction of what comes through. Normally my recruiters look at them, so I only get the ones that they're question marking. So the ones that come to me, I get maybe like 1/50th of the incoming will come to me and be like, and then I can spend more time on it. So I can dive a little bit deeper, and I'll spend, like I said, 30 to 60 seconds on it.
One other thing I just want to reiterate too is when you're applying to different jobs and companies is that you should be tailoring your resume to every position that you're applying for. These are 4 different companies, 4 different positions, and so a lot of their systems, they're all big companies, I'm sure that they're using tracking systems. So you essentially are pulling keywords from each of the job descriptions, and if you're just using a blanket resume, it's not going to get past a human eyes. So he's not going to be able to look at it for 30 to 60 seconds. It's probably going to get tossed with that notepad. So just be careful of that.
Yeah, a lot of times what's going to get you through is, career fairs, meeting with the recruiters. I have done, usually, when we were first hiring, when we first opened the San Diego office, I was doing every 2 months career mixers. I was sending them out on LinkedIn. Very easy to find. No one has this name. On LinkedIn, and I was inviting literally anyone on my LinkedIn. We usually had about 150, 160 people show up to these events, free food, free beer. We had recruiters there on site, taking, people could sign up on a laptop, and we had recruiters reach out to everybody. We increased the size of the site by 9-fold over 4 years. 9,000%. So we went from about 5 people to over 500 in about 3 or 4 years. So we did really well. We did a lot of hiring. I did a lot of interviews, we did a lot of these events. Like I said, we were doing them about every 2 months, and that was a great way to get into the pipeline for us. And we reached out. I personally made sure in an Excel spreadsheet, I tracked every single person that came to those events, and I made sure that we reached out to every single person that came. If you just submitted your resume online, I have no idea. So, those are the good way. Like building personal relationships is more important than anything else. Going to NSBE conferences, going to any of these personal events, I think is way better than anything.
I just want to touch on two things that you mentioned. One was LinkedIn. I introduced myself to all four of these gentlemen through LinkedIn, and that's why they are here today, because they are willing to share their expertise with you. How many of you have a LinkedIn account? Good. How many of you are active on it? Be honest. Yeah, I see a little handshaking. LinkedIn is a great tool, as you mentioned. So the other thing, and professional organizations was the other. Those are organizations that are made up of people that are working in industry. They are dedicated and passionate about the field, and oftentimes they have monthly meetings, they have conferences, networking events. So that is a perfect way for you to meet people, talk to different positions or companies. You also potentially can find a mentor. You can participate in these events, learn more about the industry, kind of make those networking connections. Oftentimes as a student, they have either reduced or free membership fees. Once you enter the professional field, those fees go up a lot, a couple hundreds of dollars, and also even attending conferences can be a couple $100s as well. So use that student card while you can, and take advantage of that.
Yeah, I don't know. I know SDSU has the Aztec mentorship program that I'm part of, so I mentor students at SDSU. I don't know if this college has something similar.
We are in the process of creating an alumni center on campus, and so that is something that will be in the pipeline.
Okay, so sign up for a class at SDSU.
And or is your Amazon office here is just for recruiting, or is it an actual office that you do everything, all aspects of
No. So
managing Amazon?
Yeah, no. We hilariously we have it is a development office, so mostly programmers, engineers. We have my team, which is again Prime Now, 2-hour delivery, and Fresh, which is grocery delivery. We started the office, like I said, about 3.5 years ago. We also have TRMS, which is our transaction risk management. They're focused mostly on machine learning engineers, data scientists. Then we have I think I could talk about this. Fashion technology, something related to fashion. I think I can say at least that much. And then we have a bunch of TAMs. TAMs are let's see if I got this acronym right. TAM is our technical account managers for AWS. So they they're basically manage your account if you're a big AWS client. So they help people like your company make sure they're using our AWS technologies in the right way. Then we have some kind of satellite something division that I know nothing about because it's even NDA for me, and I literally know nothing about it. I just know they do something satellite that literally just started recently. And then we have a recruiting division that recruits for nobody in San Diego. They only recruit for people in San Francisco. But their entire division is based in San Diego. But only the recruiting division. I don't know. It's hilarious. And then, who else do we have? Oh, and then we have our Amazon home something or other. They come to your house and they set up your Wi-Fi and your Alexas and your Fire TVs and your home automation stuff for you. It's pretty cool. Yeah. So yeah, we have all kinds of fun stuff.
I just want somebody's opinion on quantum supremacy.
It's supreme.
Are you working on it?
Personally, no.
No, I mean your company.
I go to meetings and watch movies and stuff. No, I don't know.
No, I have no idea what that is. But if you wanna give me some background.
Oh, but I know about quantum supremacy is it goes supercomputers. You're going to be able to solve problems instead of take 10 years to take it in 10 seconds.
Got you.
Quantum processors is what it's compared to, giant computers.
Yeah. I've read like some stuff about it. I know they got like IBM has like that Watson computer that's supposed to be able to do stuff. I've read some stuff. I'm not that familiar with a lot of it.
Well, yeah, it's going to be a game changer, obviously, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think cloud help out a lot with that stuff too. Like, yeah.
Not really a hardware guy.
Yeah, but I don't know a lot about it. I just read like the same stuff you read.
You had a question about it.
Is there anything that you guys dislike about your job? You know, we talked about like all the good stuff.
That's a good question. It's a really good question.
time to turn off the camera, man. Yeah. I think for me, it's just more of what I don't like seeing is really great people leaving. You know what I mean? And I hate seeing that because sometimes what happens is people don't feel as valued, you know, in the type of work ethic that they bring to the table. And sometimes, you know, they get passed over for somebody else that may not be, you know, as skilled as they were. So that's one of the things I'm kind of unhappy about sometimes. It's like, man, like, why not them? You know what I mean? And sometimes it is like a political game depending on the industry, but just some of the things that I've seen is, you know, that kind of sucks. But then it's like, okay, well, what can I do to kind of change that? You know what I mean? That whole dynamic in the company. And, you know, maybe stand up for them, or if you're part of that meeting, say something, you know what I mean? Like, you just never know. But that's probably one of the things I don't like is the politics. I don't like the politics. But you gotta know the politics and how you learn.
Every job, I feel like. There's
That's
like
an
politics
enemy
in part of every position, I feel like, right?
Yeah, you have to know it, you know what I mean? You gotta read books like, you know, Art of War, you know what I mean? You gotta, I'm dead serious, like, it's the truth. Like, you gotta know how to maneuver yourself in these positions, because then next thing you know, you're gonna be cut off. You know what I mean? You're asking yourself, oh man, what happened? You know, I wasn't aware. Because, well, you gotta know what's going on.
There's a book called 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. That's also
Yes.
manual to have it.
Yeah, you know, like one of the laws, like never outshine the master. You know what I mean? Like, if we're looking so good, and then the person that's, you know, that's been there for like 20, 30 years, like, man, who's this young person that's been there for like barely a year out surpassing me? No, not today. You know what I mean? So it goes back and forth. It's crazy, but it's exciting too. You know what I'm saying? That's just me. But once you know, then you know. But if you don't know, get to know.
Yes. It's gonna be different for everybody. Like, my company, I don't have a lot of, I mean, I've worked at Intel, with the Dell. Like, I haven't had dealt with a lot of politics. One thing I do like about tech, the reason why I got into it is because if you're good at what you do, then normally it surfaces. And, you know, that's just been my experience. That's not everybody's experience. And when it comes down to somebody shining over me, my intern is smarter than me, I let him shine. I give him more work, you know what I mean? Because I don't get I get a reward for discovering that he's able to do these things, you know, and that's just my experience. You know, everybody's experience is the same. That gives me time to focus on something else.
Yeah.
You know, but you also have to have that type of mindset. Like, some people, they might see that and they might be like, oh no, this intern's smarter than me. I see it and I'm like, cool, I'm just gonna learn what you learn. like we just gonna learn it, you know, we're gonna learn together, you know, and then I'm gonna be that much better along with what I already know. Yeah. So yeah, it all depends on the company. I mean, I've heard a lot of people have to do with politics, playing a promotion game and stuff like that, but that hasn't really been my experience.
How do we contact you guys? Is there anyone in contact?
TikTok, man. TikTok. Does anybody not have a TikTok? No? You don't? Oh, you gotta get this one. Yeah.
LinkedIn.
We talked about LinkedIn, right?
LinkedIn, right? You guys.
LinkedIn.
So we only have a couple more minutes. I want to be really conscious of their time since they took time in their busy schedules to be here. So just one last reminder, please do this survey. And if you can leave it for us, that would be awesome. But so we don't end on a negative note, if we could share maybe a piece of advice that you could share with students as they are continuing with their education, they are entering the workforce. What is something maybe that you wish you had done as a student to help prepare that you wish you had known?
Just last question.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any opportunities for IT help desk support, like people with certificate training?
No.
Or is it just engineers that you guys are searching for?
Or any entry level, like everybody just talked about internships, but there are some graduates here. We have graduated and we are trying to get into the field, but there's no opportunities when you don't have any work experience. Basically, there's nothing.
There you go.
Go look under careers.
Or do they exist for you guys, or do they help you guys in anything, or?
Actually, what is your opinion? It seems like, in my experience, of engineers who already are very technically competent. Like the IT help desk is like, they don't use it.
Obsolete? You can say it. Yeah, so.
Is there like future for us, or?
Is there a future?
Or do you know of
At
any?
certain companies, and it all depends on what products they offer, right? Like at our job, the help desk probably would be like it wouldn't be an engineer. It may be like a solution consultant or something like that. Like it rolls into like, would you know like what they, like who handles the first
You guys never started off
line?
on
The guy that installs the computers for new people.
So, oh, okay, yeah. So for our integration.
That's his name.
Yeah. Hamid, yeah. Well, Hamid, he like mostly handles our stuff. So like it would be for the customer, it would probably be like the account manager or something. But yeah, but it wouldn't be engineer. So maybe what you're looking for is not on the same title of you know.
Because the campus offers so many certificate programs
Yeah.
as well.
I think it's more of a back of the house question, like IT hardware. Because that's where, what is that position called?
Help desk.
Help desk.
Would be able to how to set up the actual cable. I think you guys are mainly at front of the house, which is the software.
Yeah, so we actually have, and I'm sure Qualcomm does too, a very robust IT help desk. I literally have 24/7 support that I can call in Seattle. The problem is it's in Seattle, right? We do have 2-3 people here in San Diego that run our help desk, our IT help desk here in San Diego. They're full-time, but it's 3 people out of a couple hundred, right? So it's a limited number of folks. It's certainly not like in Seattle, there's like 30 people per building and there's like 1 million buildings up there. So that's like 30 million people, right? So, you know, yeah, Amazon has a lot of those types of positions available. The unfortunate part is they're mostly in Seattle. Some of them might be remote because there is, like I said, 24/7 like phone support where I can chat or call somebody for help, VPN support, that kind of stuff. So they do exist. Amazon.jobs has a ton of stuff available. You can literally just go and search on there. I just don't know how many openings there are. It's not where I specialize, so I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but they do exist, and I know we hire for them.
I use them today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and it depends. Yeah. So that was your question. Your question was something about you just graduated, but you didn't say what your degree was in or what your
IT engineering.
IT engineering. So so yeah, I guess kind of like the gentleman that was over there. The question for you is: do you want to stay with IT, doing? So you did similar things like with Active Directory and this kind of stuff. Like you want to run IT for like a smaller company, or do you want to shift into, because I think with IT engineering you could even do something like a TAM role where you're doing technical account management for like an AWS customer. It might be something to look into, and those roles are actually pretty predominant kind of all over the place, and that might be something you might look into. If you reach out to me, I can put you in touch with a couple of TAMs here in San Diego that I'm sure could explain the job role to you way better than I could.
Well, even working at a data center too, I know they need IT people a lot.
Yeah.
Because a lot of networks, you know, so I think a valuable skill to know is Unix and Linux, you know what I mean? Because that's like commands, you know, and with the programs, they start those scripts to run those commands, you know, so it's like, okay, if I know that part, then I can maneuver myself in these engineering positions, you know what I mean? And I think that can help as well.
You know, that brings up a good point. Let me piggyback off of that, and let me correct myself. When I say the cloud is really just somebody else's computer. So it's not like someone moving to the cloud means that there is no IT staff running that.
Right.
That's just some IT staff somewhere else running it, right? So that's still a computer somewhere doing something, and there's still someone administering it somehow, right? So there's still physical hardware somewhere doing something. And there's still data centers, and there's still, you know, so these jobs still exist. It's just the nature of the job is changing from in-house at the dentist's office to in some data center somewhere.
Yeah, we don't, and when you hire for like a DevOps team or something like that, it's not like you find somebody, like, yeah, you might find somebody that's like DevOps to DevOps, but you're looking for like a bunch of different type of people. Like, you might be looking for somebody that got Active Directory experience and stuff like that, and then you like, we got somebody like that, now we need somebody that knows Python, like, it's very diverse, so it's not like he said, you're still doing the same stuff, it's just not yours. You pay for it for a little while, but you're still doing the same stuff though, so you need the same skill set.
But expanding your skill set, I think, is important. Not relying on, okay, I know like 2 or 3 things, I'm good. You should continue to learn and expand. Just figure out where your interest lies, and then expand in that direction, right?
Yeah.
Last one.
I said all this time.
The pay, is the pay good? What's the salary like?
For what?
The whole.
$1 to $1 billion a year.
Like entry level, entry. Like
In what role?
For you guys, like engineering, or like kind of like for hers.
Like our entry level engineers are in the 140-ish range, 150-ish range.
Ours is like 40. I'm just kidding. I don't know. Yeah, it really does range. It really does range.
Like for beginner.
But for entry level, I would suspect at least 60,000. Like, that would just be my guess, but it could be way more just depending on the role. But probably is definitely more. But that's why, when I graduated, it was like 60. So you know what I'm saying? That was like 10 years ago. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it can definitely at least it'll be enough to to get by for sure. Yeah.
It depends on the company. It depends on where we're at. Like Amazon's salary structure is standardized across the board, more or less. So.
Fake question. Do you guys see a hole in your recruiting? Like, there's this skill set that you all need that you see a hole in that you can't find enough people. What is that?
Managers.
What is that?
Managers. That's the two hardest roles for me to hire for are software development managers, that's what I do, and technical project managers. Those are the 2 hardest roles to hire. Engineers, I hire literally hundreds per year, but technical project managers and software development managers are 1 a year. If I can get 1 a year, I'm over the moon. Very difficult to hire.
And is there anything specific that students could do to help work towards that?
The problem is with the manager roles, you
Just
need like 15 years of experience. It's tough.
Could we go back to her question?
The advice.
One piece of advice, last question, seriously.
One piece of advice, I'll just be real quick. Emotional intelligence, okay?
Yes.
That is so key, and I hope you're still recording this. I swear everybody should read this book, all right? Write it down. It's called How to Stop Hurting the People Who Love You, okay? And it's $40. You can buy it on Amazon.com. And I swear that's one of the best books I ever read. It taught me how to not only manage my own emotions, but to understand other people's emotions. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the key thing. Is that when we're getting so technical in these fields, we got to understand how to gauge, you know what I mean? And sometimes people are very passionate about what they're talking about. We may not really understand their personality, right? So I really believe in this, and I think his name's like Dr. William Adams or something like that. But How to Stop Hurting the People Who Loves You, one of the best books you'll ever read in your life. Not only just with career, but with your relationships, just anything that you can think of. I think that emotional intelligence will definitely stand you apart from the rest of the world.
Thank you for that, and I just want to reiterate, there was several of you mentioned other skills aside from just the technical components. You're still interacting with other people on your team, so communication, collaboration, teamwork was mentioned, time management, project management, people skills. Those are all 21st century professional skills that companies are looking for. So not just at a computer, you're by yourself, you're interacting with everyone around you, and so emotional intelligence on top of all of that is definitely going to put you in a position to be successful. Okay. Other advice?
I would say get your basics right, get your fundamentals. If the fundamentals are strong, then you should be good.
If we're doing book recommendations, my favorite books are, I actually really like Extreme Ownership. I think
Dr. Willing.
Yes.
He's actually here.
Yeah, he is. It's a fantastic book, and if we're doing book recommendations, I'm also going to say that if you're like me and you hate reading, which I do, which is a terrible trait for this career, Audible. I listen to everything on an audiobook. I do it while I'm driving. I plow through so many books now. Like I drive literally from over here. I literally live down here and I drive to La Jolla every day. And I can, I get 45 minutes to an hour and a half on a bad traffic day every day of listening to books, audiobooks, and it's fantastic. Much better use of my time than anything else I could possibly be doing while I'm driving traffic. So, highly recommend Audible to do something useful with your commute.
I have no book recommendations.
Not one.
The Hobbit. That's a really good book. If I was gonna say one thing that I would say do, if you see jobs, like, I don't care, look at the job you want, like, not the job, the entry level job, look at the job you really want. Go look at it, go look at the job description and get the skills. That's what they hire for, so that's kind of one of the things I do. I'll talk to somebody, they say, hey, you have to have these skills, this. If I see the description of the job, cool. You go learn that stuff, get versed in that. That's how you get your resume cool. That's what they said they hired for. They did that for a reason. So, that's what I was saying.
Awesome. This is all very incredible advice. Thank you so much. Can we give everyone a round of applause?